Why do you think the Pentagon is withholding how many service members have died in Iran? Any reasons that would be good or justifiable, you think? Iran has been striking U.S. military bases in Jordan. So far, they have reported that 2 service members were killed, when the real estimate is closer to 100, and that's from CENTCOM, who is, again, wildly underreporting this. Don't take this from me or New York Times. Take it from service members in my DMs telling me about how fucked the Jordan bases are. They are saying that the government is straight up lying to you, and that service members know it. This is what happens when you put woefully underprepared Fox News hosts in charge of our military. If you were upset about Benghazi and you were upset about Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan, I have to assume you are fucking furious about this, right? Hundreds of service members dead. Why were they there in the fucking first place? How many times have you heard our president tell you that Iran's military capability has been completely decimated and obliterated, and yet here they are killing scores of your fucking brothers and sisters over there? We have no idea what the reality of the situation is over there, and that is because we cannot trust a single goddamn word our government is telling us.
Imagine being stuck on a ship for over 260 days with broken toilets, moldy showers, and mystery meat, while your leaders blame you for bad morale. Navy families just confronted Acting Secretary Hunga in San Diego, and the tea is piping hot. We have sailors on the USS Abraham Lincoln deployed for over 260 days. The USS Gerald Ford did 326 days, setting a post-Vietnam record. And what are these brave people dealing with? Feces on the floor because the plumbing is backed up. Showers covered in mold. Care packages lost at sea because our supply chains are in shambles. Sailors are literally telling their families they fear they are going to die out there. But instead of fixing the toilets, what does the Trump regime do? Pete Hegseth thinks doing some low flyovers will magically boost morale. And Hunga? He sent out a memo lecturing sailors on their warrior ethos, demanding they get better haircuts, fix their physical appearance, and stop complaining on social media. Are you kidding me? You cannot even feed these people. But you want them to look sharp? You are not giving them working showers, but you want to talk about deportment. Trump and his cronies literally called the sailors liars when photos of their disgusting, unidentifiable meat nuggets leaked. Then they have the nerve to demand a $1.5 trillion military budget. Why? Because Donald Trump wants to build Trump-class battleships. He does not like how stealth fighters look. So he wants to blow $1 trillion on World War II aesthetics while our actual troops are sleeping on the floor after a laundry fire destroyed their beds on the Gerald Ford. You want to talk about professionalism? The acting Navy Secretary says Trump is 5 steps ahead of the Iranians. If he is 5 steps ahead, why did the USS George H.W. Bush have to sneak around the tip of Africa because they were terrified of the Houthis? You have lost control of the seas. You cannot deliver mail. And our sailors are begging not to be complicit in war crimes. But sure, let us make sure their haircuts are regulation. It is a sick joke. These families were in tears, telling top brass that their loved ones are suffering from serious mental health issues. And the response from Vice Admiral Joseph Cahill and the other commanders, they basically said, this is what it means to be a patriot, just do what Trump and Hegseth say. Since when does patriotism mean tolerating gross negligence and inhumane living conditions? You have babies at home who have never met their fathers because these deployments keep getting extended while the replacement ships sit in Hawaii until Christmas. Drop a comment below and tell me how $1 trillion battleship fixes a backed up toilet. If this makes your blood boil, hit that share button and follow for more.
According to a new report, there's been a 1,000% increase in U.S. troops seeking what's called conscientious objector status, meaning they would be objecting to going to fight in the Iran war. A military official said that a ground operation would be an absolute disaster. We don't have a plan for that. We can't even fully defend a single land base in the theater. Additionally, a veteran and a reservist who mentors younger officers told HuffPost her contacts are expressing a loss of faith to a new degree. She said, "I'm hearing out of service members' mouths the words, 'We don't want to die for Israel. We don't want to be political pawns.'" And another reservist in touch with current troops separately reported hearing similar comments. The first reservist continued by saying, "I've shared conscientious objector information 6 times in the past 2 weeks, and I've been in the military almost 20 years. I've never had people reach out this way." The executive director of the Center of Conscience and War said his group in the past would hear from between 50 and 80 troops annually. However, this month he's seen a 1,000% increase, saying at least one new service member now contacts the organization daily. The reservist said the lack of a clear, consistent narrative justifying the Iran war is a key source of discontent among troops, demoralizing those who believe a poorly planned conflict is placing them in unnecessary danger for no identifiable strategic benefit. A 1,000% increase in U.S. troops seeking to avoid this war because there's no reason for it should tell us everything we need to know.
Huge new casualty numbers coming out of the Iran war for us. So the last we heard, there were 8 Americans who were wounded, 7 who were dead. Turns out the Pentagon's been lying and hiding the real numbers. They just reported the real numbers confirmed by the White House. It turns out the number wounded is a little higher than 8. It's 150. So tons of casualties, and casualties are both the dead and the injured. So this is a deeply unpopular war. The reason they were hiding the numbers is because it's an unnecessary war. So on tonight's Young Turks, starts every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock Eastern on YouTube. Make sure you're checking it out live. Rogan turns against the war. Megyn Kelly's against it. Tucker Carlson, Piers Morgan, us, almost the entire left, almost the entire online media against it. Why were they hiding these numbers? Are we sending in ground troops? That's what a senator just said. These numbers will be far worse, or are we getting out soon? All of that will be discussed tonight on the Young Turks.
We have a catastrophic situation in the U.S. military, and as a veteran, I'm going to explain to you how Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are totally responsible. This is actually shocking. So let's look at a few key indicators. So first off, our air and missile defense is totally depleted. Understand, in any modern high-intensity conflict, you need a lot of air defense missiles. And look what they did. Went from 2,330 Patriot missiles before the war to now, what? 760. Guys, this is for the entire planet. Europe, Indo-Pacific, United States. It's all we have. Totally insane. And understand, they built 5,000 of these in total, and they went down to 760. Crazy. And on top of that, somehow, the U.S. military is out of money. Now, just think about how insane this is. We have a $1.1 trillion defense budget. They've got billions and billions and billions in additional money during Trump's second term. And yet, they're having to cut training. They're having to move money around from different departments to another to cover basic expenses. I mean, this is crackhead behavior. And why do you think this is going to happen? Well, I can think of 2 things. Number one, the fact that the Iran war, a war of choice, totally stupid, and we are losing. Just an absolute debacle. We're supposed to cost $27 billion, and it's costing, in reality, $132 billion. In addition, perhaps the bigger issue is Pete Hegseth. Remember during his confirmation hearings, there was all this info about how he couldn't run like a small nonprofit, and they're always having financial issues. What did you think was going to happen when you put him in charge of the biggest organization on the planet? Well, it's entirely predictable. And this, I'm telling you, emboldens our adversaries, puts us at risk, and it is completely insane. Like, this is a crisis. Watch. This, on top of everything else that Trump is doing to destabilize the world, could be a key point that changes history for the worse.
Families of service members on the USS Abraham Lincoln are sounding the alarm today over the conditions that the U.S. military is treating our troops, especially the troops that are being sent to war in Iran. In interviews with MS Now, families say that troops are faced with moldy showers, continued food shortages to this day, running out of toothpaste, running out of deodorant, running out of soap. And they're worried not just that morale is falling, but also that the safety and the conditions on the ship are faltering to the point where they're worried these service members could make a mistake. They're working, quote, excruciatingly long shifts. Some rarely get a day off. The aircraft carrier itself is falling apart, according to one father who's a Navy veteran who said that his son described seeing holes that have worn through the flight deck. It is really bad right now for service members in the Middle East. And we need to keep talking about it so that others know what's happening. As always, spread the word and follow along to stay up to date on all the news you need to know about.
So I keep seeing videos about low recruitment numbers and how we're going through like a recruiting crisis in the military. And I keep seeing tons of articles about it too. And especially recruiters. They're telling me it's been rough out there. Apparently the Army's doing the worst out of all of the branches. They're like 15,000 people short. From what I understand, the Marine Corps is the only branch of service that's like on track to actually meet their goals. So obviously this is a really complex issue. It's not something that can be just solved easily, and I don't think that there's like a one quick fix thing for this. I think ultimately people communicate differently now than they used to. Like, social media is much bigger now than it's ever been before. It's definitely much different than it was when I first came in. And I think one of the biggest problems they're having is medical waivers and this whole new Genesis system that they use to scan everyone's medical records from all their private practices that they, went to when they were civilians. And every recruiter I know keeps telling me that it's Genesis. That's the main thing, because there's this huge bottleneck of people that are waiting for waivers for all kinds of medical stuff that's like related to things they had done or things they did when they were kids or something. And so it's clogged up the entire system. I've had tons of people in my DMs every day telling me, hey, look, I'm still trying to get in. I want to serve, but I can't because I'm waiting on these waivers and they're taking a long time to process them. Not only because it's a much bigger pain in the butt for recruiters to have to go through all of the legwork to get all these waivers put in. There's also like a huge backlog of waivers that are waiting to be processed at MEPS and things like that. So I'm not sure 100% what the solution is, but there's got to be, like, this whole Genesis program is new. It's not something that's been around for a long time. So if they're going to require that everyone divulge all of their private medical history, they need to set up an expedited way to potentially process all these waivers, because there's going to be a lot more. They need to adjust what medical conditions even need waivers anymore. I don't know. I would like to get all your input because I'm kind of curious what everyone else is thinking, because this is a very complex issue. Again, it's not simple. There's no cut and dry solution for this.
It's being reported that some soldiers are opting out of this war and refusing to deploy to Iran. Soldiers are filing conscientious objections. This is an objection to participate in war in any form. Every soldier has the right to object, and this can be based on religious, ethical, or moral beliefs. It's being said that a lot of soldiers filed their objection after it was found out that it was an American missile that struck an Iranian school, unaliving 150 children. Some soldiers cited they didn't believe that Iran was an imminent threat to the United States when this war was started. Others also cited that they did not want to fight a war for another country. Once a soldier files a conscientious objection, before the investigation even starts, their command is notified and any deployments or assignments must be halted. Now, there is a possibility that their conscientious objection could be rejected, and Donald Trump could pass a law where conscientious objections are not allowed during these times. But what would that say about our country if we would force people to fight for something that they don't believe in?
Let me get this straight. There are 4 missing US soldiers on the border of Belarus. Their vehicle has been found underwater and they are nowhere to be seen. It has been 2 days, and the president just said 1 hour ago, 5 p.m. Eastern time for the Americans, that he hasn't been briefed about it. He hasn't been given any information about it. He knows nothing. This is the president who cares about the military, who cares about the veterans. So this is where they've gone missing, right here. This is Lithuania. Here is Belarus. They were doing NATO exercises, obviously in anticipation of future attacks from Belarus and Russia, which is right up there. This is Latvia. They have been gone for 2 days and he doesn't know anything. He hasn't asked anything. No one's told him any information. It was presumed previously that they were dead, and this is actually what the NATO General Secretary said, because he said he was briefed that they had lost their lives and he sent his wishes to the family. But then he retracted his statement saying that he was told that they were dead, but then the US haven't confirmed it, so he retracted his statement and said that the search is still ongoing. Where are the soldiers? There are no bodies. Nobody knows where they are. The president hasn't been briefed. It's been 2 days. What the hell is going on?
This story should make every support our troops story hit just a little bit differently. According to new reporting, over 1,500 U.S. Navy sailors, their families, their pets, everyone was evacuated from Bahrain. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But everyone was evacuated after Donald Trump launched the attacks against Iran. And the way it happened was unbelievable. They were told, grab what you can in a backpack and go. That's it. No time, no preparation, no planning. Some showed up back in the U.S. with no uniforms, just the clothes on their back. One mother had a 2-week-old baby, a toddler, and a dog in a crate, just trying to get somewhere safe. And when they got here, No support. Local communities had to step in, donating toothbrushes, shampoo, soap for active duty military families. Let that freaking sink in, will you? This is where we are in this administration, in the richest country in the world. During a war, troops and families are counting on donations from local communities for basic hygiene. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has time for parades, photo ops, political stunts, ballrooms, but not enough time to plan for the actual people serving. And now, these families are being told they could be waiting months to get reimbursed for the basic essentials. Months? So the question is simple. How do you say support our troops while leaving them like this? Because this isn't just policy failure. It's betrayal of our active duty military. What are your thoughts? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Follow me for more.
Donald Trump laughed on camera about 14 American soldiers killed in his Iran war. Then ICE arrested the wife of an active duty Army sergeant at her own immigration hearing. Then he signed off on a $1.8 billion fund for January 6th rioters and created nothing for the Capitol Police officers they beat with flagpoles. All of this happened inside the same administration. This week, Senator Tammy Duckworth, a combat veteran who lost both legs flying a Black Hawk in Iraq, confirmed what the administration has been downplaying. 14 American service members killed, hundreds more wounded, billions in military equipment destroyed or expended, all in a war Trump promised he would never start. She stated directly that the administration has minimized the severity of combat injuries, including traumatic brain injuries sustained from Iranian missiles and drones. Simultaneously, the VA secretary testified to a plan that cuts funding for direct veteran care and targets 83,000 VA jobs for elimination. The message written into the budget: send them to war, then reduce the system built to treat them when they come back broken. Daisy Ortega, wife of active duty Army Sergeant First Class Jose Serrano, was arrested by ICE while attending her own scheduled immigration hearing, a proceeding where she was actively trying to comply with the law. She was detained for over a month. Federal policy explicitly prohibits deporting spouses of active duty service members. ICE did it anyway. Senator Duckworth, representing Illinois, not Texas, where the family is from, intervened personally, texted the Secretary of Veterans Affairs directly on a Wednesday afternoon, and Daisy was released by Thursday evening. Since January, ICE has arrested 125 non-citizen veterans and placed 282 veterans and military family members into deportation proceedings.
Amazing.
ICE does not voluntarily track or publish these numbers. Senators are pulling this data themselves, line by line. The Texan senators representing this family made no public move. The Trump administration created a $1.88 billion discretionary fund available to January 6th rioters, approximately 1,500 of whom were convicted of actual crimes. Capitol Police officers who were present that day, beaten with flagpoles, riot gear, and bear spray, dozens suffering severe brain injuries, some later dying by suicide, received no equivalent fund. Not one. Senator Duckworth, who was inside the Capitol during the attack, stated flatly, "There is no daycare funding, no health care expansion, gas is above $5 a gallon in Chicago, and Trump publicly said he does not think about Americans' financial situations. But there is $1.88 billion available to the convicted mob he pardoned." Duckworth added a harder assessment. Trump may no longer care about electoral outcomes because a fully compliant Republican Party will permit whatever he decides to do next, making traditional checks and balances structurally inoperable. 14 soldiers dead in a war he promised not to start. Veterans being deported. Military wives arrested at their own legal hearings. VA funding cut while the war is still active. And $1.88 billion set aside not for any of them, but for the people who stormed the building where their commander-in-chief works. A senator who lost both legs serving this country had to personally text a cabinet member to free one military spouse. That is the system as it currently functions. Those are not opinions. Those are the documented facts of this Memorial Day weekend. When a government cuts veteran health care, deports military families, and creates a nearly $2 billion fund for convicted rioters, what exactly does the word support our troops mean anymore?